Working?
Okay. Believe we're live. I think there's a couple second delay, so we'll see if it actually kicks in. You can hear me though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. I gotta better turn the volume down. Yeah. I'm getting some sort of visual confirmation here. It's running, so I guess I fixed everything and it's working as best I can. Let me just do one thing live. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Excuse me. There we go. See, I can do it.
NTM.
I need all the encouragement I can get. This has been a huge undertaking for me. So, we'll, I might be dropping frames. We'll see if, hopefully I'm not.
Better than deuces.
That is true. So, this is the first episode of what I'd like to call Big Giant Technical Headache that I've been thinking about for about 8 months to come to some sort of fruition because I'm looking at it and it's live over here. So, it's a little scary. I wasn't really prepared. I mean, I was, but I wasn't. Some of this can be attributed to you. So thank you for ruining the last 8 months. No, I'm joking. You inviting me to all these awesome movies and being on your podcast, it is not something I normally do. That's not have been my career for the last 29 years. So I've appreciated it. We've known each other for almost 40 years. And
Long
so,
time.
well, getting to participate with you and do these awesome, going to see the movies and being part of that and, meeting all your friends in that community and then coming back and doing the podcast. I know my buddy John, who also know, we were joking back in college of doing something like this. That tells you how old I am. But we just didn't do it. And I messaged him today and I said, hey, look, I did a thing. And so he said, congrats. So I'd like to get him on here at some point. I'm just trying to do something creative with my time. I have a little bit of free time now and again, and I've decided to spend way too much money build myself a PC, which I have not done in about 10 years, so I had to relearn all that technology, and then learn all about streaming. It's been 3 months of software boot camp, leading to today. You were with me for how long last night?
God, it was about 4 hours, probably.
Easily.
No joke. About 4 hours just testing equipment, doing these boxes and whatnot, and you just trying to figure out how to not make one dark, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't get the camera to work, and it turns out, of course, I told you earlier today, I was looking to see how to get the camera to work in 2 locations.
Yeah.
When really the question should have been, just go to the other location.
Yeah.
It took
and every time you had that, I had this image in my head while you were trying. I was looking at different sides of your face and whatnot as you were doing that. Is the bit in Airplane where they're doing the news bits about the plane crashing, and the guy he's doing the drums, and then he turns to the other camera and he does the drums over there.
So they give him another set too.
Yeah, right.
Breaking news.
New breaking news. They give him the new sticks.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. I can't even explain how many buttons. One of these days when you do come over here and we do one with you actually here, you get to see this monstrosity.
Yeah.
I got a couple Anybody who's a streamer and is probably 25 years old knows what I'm talking about. But at 48 years old, having to relearn stuff from 10 years ago and updating it, like even the new hard drive in the computer. The last one I bought was not even a solid-state drive. It was an old mechanical one. The little hard drive now is a 2-terabyte drive, and I'm not joking when I say if you take a credit card and snap it in half, like longwise, horizontal, it's that tiny. That thin, damn near that thin, and that tiny. I can't take it out to show you, but it is incredibly small. It's almost like a like a thumb drive.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot bigger than this.
And they still make those?
They do.
Wow.
For old people like us that need them.
Yeah.
But it actually came in handy last night. But yeah, like even that stuff is crazy. I went to console gaming. I've been a console gamer forever, but I had a PC for a long time, and I played games on PC. And 10, 15 years ago, it was a nightmare. Everything had to be updated. Drivers for this, drivers for that. You had to every time you turned it on, something didn't work. It was annoying. So I just basically went to console gaming solely. And it's so much nicer. You throw a disc in, it updates, boom, you're done, you play. Everything just works. iPads, everything has become so easy. Building this PC and redoing all this stuff was a massive undertaking for me. But it looks like it's working. So let's get to the...
You seem genuinely excited about this.
I am. I'm scared out of my mind,
There's
but
a
I'm
glow
also...
coming out of you is what I'm saying.
The what?
There's a glow coming off of you is what I'm saying.
Well, that also might be my massive forehead. I put these lights up against the wall. Thankfully, the paint in my basement is white, and so I bounce the light off of it to get more light, and then it just makes me more pale, but I'm visible. So, whatever. It works. So, so your podcast is... Why don't you tell people, A, who you are? I should probably say who I am. My name's Erik. My name's Erik, and this is Ain't This the Fun Podcast. It's being streamed live on YouTube, and it'll be archived there later. I should do what everybody does on YouTube. You should click to subscribe or hit the bell, wherever that is. I'll have to figure that out later. There you go. It's somewhere. It's over here. So if you hit subscribe, it goes into a list. So every time you go to YouTube, if I got a video, you can see it. If you hit the little bell, basically it'll send a little ping to your phone saying, hey, the person's live or they posted something new. For all the people our age who don't do this like we are. But yeah, so this is called the Ain't This the Fun Podcast. But I also plan on live streaming video games, doing board game stuff. Once I feel comfortable having people in the basement in this enclosed space. I'd like to do like board games, and I've been kickstarting. If you don't know, people who don't know what that is, but it's basically pre-ordering games in development. And I have like 40 games I bought for the last 2 years because, of course, I started this right before the pandemic, and so then none of us could get together. So I have tons of games to play. I'm a big HeroClix fan. I'll be doing some videos about HeroClix. I have 2 whole sets back there that I haven't opened yet, so I'll do a little unboxing. of that, show people what that's all about if you're marginally interested. And then that's kind of what the channel's going to be. I might even start making coffee tables. I have some cool ideas. I want to teach myself how to solder LEDs, so that might be involved in the coffee tables. And then that's pretty much it. The reason, I will say this, the reason it's called Ain't This the Fun is because this is something my grandfather used to say. He didn't say it in a happy way. This isn't something, he wouldn't go, oh, ain't this the fun? It was always like a situation where, like a family gathering, and he wasn't having a particularly great time, and he'd go, hey, ain't this the fun? And that was his way of letting you know he was irritated or bored or whatever. So I lovingly took the name, and I'm trying to do something positive because 2021, jumping off of 2020, 2021 has been a spectacularly crappy year, and for lots of reasons. And I want to be positive, and you and I have talked a lot about this. So my name's Erik. You happen to also be an Erik.
Yeah, with a K.
Yeah.
So
both.
Two Eriks with Ks. And yes, you have been on my podcast many times for several years now. The Movie Madness podcast, which is available at the Now Playing Network .net or efilmcritic.com. You can find them both there. And we've been doing this. I've lost track exactly what year I started this now. I can't believe at least, that.
What, 3, 4, 5, something like that, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely it seems like it's about 4 or 5. But I can't believe when it started that I'd be first when it started. I can't believe I would be on your streaming podcast live on YouTube, saying that I have created and produced and edited 280 podcasts. You know, I don't have a producer. I do it all myself. Put it all together, and got just a handful of guests, people that I know that I trust. I'd like to be able to do more with that, and I think 2022 is going to be a year where that does expand a little bit. After when the pandemic really hit in 2020, there was a long gap where I wasn't doing the show for a while because I was just trying to stay afloat, like many people were. But once we sort of got through that point, it came back with a vengeance. I've been doing like 2 episodes a week now, which is kind of certifiably insane on my schedule, but I've managed to do it. You've been a big part of it, talking mostly comic book stuff, some other things along the way. You were on some Star Wars podcast, and we did one on Ghostbusters, the new one, recently. So and it's always been invaluable to have that level of expertise on the show, because certainly otherwise I'd be talking to you like, yeah, it's good, it's pretty good. I have more to say to that, I think, but the history and all that kind of stuff. So that's at least one niche in the podcast that we certainly filled very well.
Good. So the other thing that people don't know about you is, I don't think you mentioned it, is you do the film festival. We're located, we're not going to say exactly where, obviously, but we're located near Chicago, and you're part of that whole society of film critics and writers, and you do a film festival every year that just concluded, a month ago?
Yeah, in November, the Chicago Critics Film Festival, which I helped found back in 2013, and we did it at the. I still remember you were there helping me promote the first film festival we did, sitting there at that table in the lobby of the Movie Co. going, people like going to see like Spring Breakers and stuff. I'm like, here's come to our festival this weekend. William Friedkin will be there. Sarah Polley will be there.
And the people going to see that other movie, then going to see William Friedkin.
Right.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's not every day that happens in Rosemont. But after that, we moved to the Music Box Theater, which has been our home since 2014, and the entire idea behind the festival that we worked on was that the film critics of Chicago, the Chicago Film Critics Association, again, a group of people that I know and trust very well, and handpicked to be a part of this, and all of them just jumped at the opportunity to be a part of it, and just worked their butts off ever since to put the thing together. So we go to all these other film festivals, or movies get sent to us and all those kind of things, and we just basically put together a greatest hits collection of the best films that we could find that will, come to Chicago and be a premiere at our festival, and that way you don't have to go to a Sundance or a Toronto or a Cannes and wade through 125 movies going, well, I wonder if this might be a good movie, and then you pick the 30 worst movies there, and you got nothing to talk about but crap. So here we curate in one schedule. The movies don't play up against one another. It's one movie playing at a time. So you could feasibly, if you're psycho like I am on the film festival circuit, you could see every single movie that we play if you choose to. You don't have to. And just, we do it for a week. We usually do it in May. When the pandemic hit last year, like everything else, we had to cancel. We were right in the middle of planning it for May 2020. And as things worked out, we sort of guessed right in a way that things were a little more even keeled come November this year. It was before Omicron hits, thankfully. So we were still able to put everything on. We didn't have a lot of guests as we normally did, but the people showed up. The people that have become really supportive and loyal to the film festival, and particularly the Music Box Theater, which is a huge part of.
If anybody's never been to city Chicago or obviously live here, ever been to the Music Box, it's old school. It's what, 120-year-old movie theater or theater?
90. I think it's 90 years old. I think you just had a 90th anniversary just a year or two ago, and
it feels like walking into like a Western, like a theater, like a movie theater.
Yeah, but it's like right in the heart of Wrigleyville too. So it's not like it's some old part, that you're gonna a bunch of old people. It's a very hip kind of place, but again, it's for all ages. I mean, that theater, which holds over 740 people, on
the main one, or is it per screen?
The two theaters is the big giant palace where we hold our festival, and there's a smaller, more intimate theater that has maybe like 80, 90 seats, something like that. That's also very nice, been renovated. But that huge theater with, sometimes we even have the live organist, Dennis Scott, there playing for us, which is just amazing.
That's sweet.
And yeah, I mean, everyone who walks in, people who come in from out of town, our guests, celebrities and everything, who come in and see that atmosphere, they have nothing but, the kindest words to say about it. They're just, because, those theaters don't exist anymore.
Not really.
Multiplexes, and they're scattered, they're around, but when the Music Box Theater is mentioned amongst the greatest theaters in the world regularly, that's pretty special, and we're just so honored to be, to have them there. And the people who run that theater are just the greatest. They give us all the support in the world. They thankfully, they think we're very easy to work with. We don't have a lot of demands, and we know what we're doing. So it always goes very smoothly, and stress on our part certainly, but I think we managed to make it look good.
More importantly, it's been successful. I mean, you said a decade now, or nine years?
2013. We just had this year that we did in November was the 8th. And the 2020 would have been the 8th, but now this was technically the 8th.
That's
so
right.
2013 we've been doing it. So 2 more years, 10th anniversary.
Yeah, it's awesome. I distinctly have the memory of sitting in that lobby, just you and I, passing out flyers. People looking at us like, who the hell's this guy at the table sitting in the lobby?
If a book ever gets written about this festival at some point, we got stories. That first year will probably be like half the book, actually, the stories we have, because that's kind of the juicy stuff, actually. But that's just you and I sitting at a table, just going like, hey, we're gonna be here this weekend, and we got some celebrities, and we're there on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, not exactly prime movie going.
Come on, everyone goes to a movie in the middle of the day on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and then April on a Wednesday night. We're just a handful of people doing there. We stay there for an hour and a half, and then people showed up. That first year was successful. We didn't spend a whole lot, but it was successful.
Cool. Well, that's how, and we've known each other forever. I remember we worked at a video store when those existed. Together, you were what, 15? I think
15
I was
when I started, yeah.
16, 17?
Yeah. 3 months shy of my 16th birthday is when I started there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And then you went to the grade school like on off days. We're not going to give the names of schools and stuff, but like.
Right. No, I was in high school, obviously, when I was working there.
But we lived near each other as well as kids.
Yes.
We just didn't know each other, but we knew of each other through people, and then the video store changed.
I happened to know someone. I went to school and was friends with someone who lived like 2-3 houses down from you.
Yeah.
So I was going over to that person's house all the time, not even knowing you were 3 doors down.
And again, because we're going to be talking, especially me, a lot of geeky stuff. Like everybody now. We'll talk about that too, but like geeky stuff. I remember his big, giant clamshell projector television. Remember he had that in the room off by the living room, and he had a Laserdisc player. So that would have been 80, 81.
Give or take. I mean, I was going there. And well, certainly. I mean, 80, 81. We probably were just kind of knew each other. So like 80, like the 83 to 85 period was. Okay. I mean, the back half of the 80s, I think, for the most part. But that particular period there, because I remember. I don't remember the Laserdisc player. I don't remember that being whipped out at any time.
He had one.
I just remember he had the Odyssey.
Yes.
Game
yes.
set.
Casey Munchkin with the voice. The first game to have audio speech.
Because we made great use out of that voice.
Of course. Because then they had the type and talk or whatever. You could type the word. Yeah. Well.
We typed very mature things.
Of course we did. But yeah, that, as far as friends and going over to people's houses, that seemed like the craziest, most space age thing to me at the time. He had it was a big clamshell reflective surface, projection television with the 3 big colors, RGB.
Oh, yeah.
And you put your hands and make the shadows. And then he had a Laserdisc player at one point. I do remember that. And it seemed like the future. Yeah. And no one I knew could afford that. And we were there, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. Jump to now, and I'm literally I must have about 8 electronic things around me, including this thing, and they're all broadcasting, and the internet, everything has changed. I sound like an old man, but like, this is amazing. The fact that we can do this for relatively cheap with one piece of software, and I can do all kinds of stuff on here once I learn it all. It reminds me of Doc Brown going like, wait, you have a small studio in this little camera. Like studio. It's everything's on this desk for the most part, and I am broadcasting basically to the world, and we're talking about stupid stuff. Like
it must be the future.
Right. I never would have thought in a million years that this would be possible when we were kids. So with that in mind, I thought your podcast is mostly about movies. I didn't want to do mine. Not everybody's into games. Not everybody's into video games. Not everybody's into board games. Not everybody's into comic books.
But somebody is.
And we will definitely discuss that. But my idea was, like I said, as 2021 being a nightmare for more than enough reasons. I want to do something positive. So when we talked, I said, I have this crazy idea. I said, well, let's just think of maybe like 3 things. My idea would be maybe weekly, fortnightly, every 2 weeks, bi-weekly, or monthly. Just getting on, chatting. It'll help me teach myself this stuff. It's kind of a project. And we chat. We see each other all the time. But I thought this would be neat. And so the idea is, hopefully I can get on a schedule like once every 2 weeks right now. I still have to figure out how to post a podcast. I don't know how to do that yet, so I know a little bit.
Yeah, the scheduling thing is the thing you're going to have to learn the most.
Oh boy, am I. But I also have to legitimately learn. I don't even know how to post a podcast to a website or to Apple, so that's my next step. I still have to pull the audio out of this to dump on there. So, but I figure if we just talk about 3 things, do it every 2 weeks, it could be anything. People people say things about me. I always post pictures of stupid candy I find. I don't want to talk too much like, this is what we're going to do, but like, whatever. If it's, you had a new ice cream flavor you liked, let's talk about that, and then let's talk about ice cream. Whatever comes to your mind. In this case, though, being New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, I figure let's do like the same thing that I plan on doing, but let's do a year in review. And in 1 year, we can come back and do another year in review kind of thing. So if you want, I told you, think of 3 things this year that either you liked, you used, you thought about, that stuck in your head, and we would just kind of chat. How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. You go first, though. I don't want to go first. You go first.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about my film festival. I was going to use, our festival coming back after this period where we didn't know. I mean, so many people, didn't know what the future was going to hold, and like we were coming off our greatest year in 2019. Like we were like it was so good. We were just like, oh my gosh, we can do this forever and ever. That was that kind of good. So then when 2020 just blew everything up, and we didn't know when it was going to come back. Just the mere possibility that we could continue the thing, keep it going. Because I'm not to throw a negative vibe in a thing, but I'm very much in the kind of like, well, things kind of died down, people forget about stuff and they move on to other things. And so it wasn't just putting on the festival this year. It was the fact that people came back to it. And it was really very moving to see people. And, I'm not going to say that they all came back for us. We happened to be putting on product and movies and stuff that they wanted to come and see. So it's not like they're just like, hey, let's, it's not like the end of 3 o'clock high where everyone's buying sheets of paper, to solve his little grand larceny that he did on the high school campus. But, they came back in droves. I mean, we had a great opening night. We had an incredible closing night. Again, with no guests. Like normally you bring in we've had major stars come to the festival, and when they show up, it doesn't matter what they're in. People show up just to see them in person, and that's that obviously that's a huge appeal of it. But we had no guests. We had no guests for opening night. We had no guests for closing night. We had a couple guests in between on Saturday that we had some decent crowds for, but those big movies on closing night and opening night, we had nobody, and they just showed up for the movie. They trusted us enough with the titles that we bring to the festival. I mean, maybe that's throwing up, a little high horse on my part, but there does seem to be a level of trust that because we see a lot of the same people every year at the festival, and they trust us. They're just like, oh, if they're bringing it to the festival, this must be something worth seeing. And when we had 400 plus people at the closing night, it was just like it was a little miracle actually. And so there's that. But the fact that last year, with all of the stuff that went down in 2020 and so many things got canceled, had to be moved around and whatnot. So from the end of 2020 kind of bled into 2021, where a lot of these other bigger festivals were holding virtual experiences where I could do my job right here and not have to worry about
travel,
making
sure you bring
hotel,
documents with you,
all those expenses and stuff like that. That I could do everything at home, watch it right here on the computer screen or television screen, and just and I'm not saying that that's the ideal festival experience, but I'm so glad that so many adopted that format. That allowed me to sort of stay in business, because without the movies and those experiences, I got nothing.
Right.
So that was something that I was just incredibly thankful for in 2021. Then, leading into our festival, which we did in person.
Yeah, luckily I didn't really have my career is fairly solid. And so I can't imagine the people that, especially service industry workers, you're a writer that's based on a particular thing that is a service industry. So without that service industry, obviously, it impacts you immediately.
Yep.
So I can't imagine that kind of impact. We talked a lot when that was happening to you, but it's cool that things are turning around safely, hopefully, and obviously you're we talked about like you're getting those jobs back and things that had gone missing for a while.
Yeah,
it's awesome to hear that at least they've figured out a way, even if
Yeah.
it wasn't the traditional way, or well, we only want you to see in the theater because if you see it in the theater, it's what we wanted. At least
Yeah,
it's
that
well, at least you get to see the
went
movie.
Away that excuse, funny enough, kind of went away in 2021. It came back a little bit towards the end of the year when people started bringing theater exclusive. They weren't just streaming the stuff on Disney Plus on day and date and all that kind of stuff. And the way the industry's changing, that's something we're going to be talking about for years to come, frankly. But it was just it was funny that all those things over the years, like, well, they want you to see in the theater, and all of a sudden it's like we'll send you a link at home, please watch.
It's better that than no one getting to see it.
Absolutely right.
And I could be wrong, but you tell me, like, what, 50? Again, I'm just making up a number. Probably 50% ish of those movies are movies the general public. Would you agree? And I don't mean this to be reductive, but like, would they be movies that Joe, six pack sitting at home, like, oh, let's go see a movie? Would they necessarily, A, even though they existed, B, where to even go to see it, C, if they could even find a place to watch them until they end up coming out on streaming?
It's probably greater than 50% if you're getting into that.
Okay. And again, I don't mean to be reductive.
No,
I'm not being reductive.
No.
I'm just saying, like, because they don't have the ability to get a big giant major studio. That's what that's what you're doing, is you're giving them exposure to, like.
And some of these films are, they do have, companies that release them, but they're not, they don't release them in theaters generally, which doesn't mean they're all bad.
Not like when we worked at the video store. If you said it's going direct to video, you went, uh-oh.
Yes, and that still exists to an extent.
But it's not automatic, right?
It's not automatic.
Or now it's like straight to streaming.
It
doesn't automatically mean it's bad.
No. Well, now with Netflix and Amazon and all that kind of stuff, it's not quite the same. Although, some of the Netflix premieres and whatnot, they were, there have been movies over the years that you're like, oh, we spent $70 million on the new Will Smith movie, and then you see it and like, yeah, there's a reason it didn't go into theaters. That stuff still exists. But then you get, an Irishman or a Roma on Netflix, and you go like, well, I wish I could have seen those in a theater. I happen to, though, those two particular ones, but they're, like, there's, Sandra Bullock's had a couple movies on Netflix. Bird Box is the most streamed movie in history, which is, anytime Netflix releases those stats, you have to do one of those, because anytime you're just like, oh, I'll click on that. Yeah, I'm good. 2 minutes, and then just like it's like $70 million. That person just that's the equivalent of that much money.
Well, they don't like give their numbers out either, right? Don't they like kind of keep them secret?
Well, they don't.
They'll just say this was the most streamed, but they're not going to tell you how many streamed.
Yeah. That's part of the thing, and then they release some movies. They have over a couple of years released movies in theaters for like a week or 2 weeks before it hits Netflix now, but then they don't always report those box office numbers. I mean, there's only a couple theaters anyway, but they don't want people reporting that no one went to see their movie. But that's part of the whole HBO Max Warner Brothers thing that came out this year, and everyone was, kind of arguing that, like, well, the box office numbers on these movies aren't doing great. I'm like, yeah, because people are staying at home and watching them. A good portion of them are. So and that's has nothing to do, again, with the quality of the movie. It's just if you, in this environment, have the opportunity to either go to a theater or click it on the TV right next to me in a comfy home.
Best seat in the house.
Right.
Cheap food. Quick access to the washroom.
Popcorn if you got it. I mean, it's just, I mean, you can do it. And, I mean, the theatrical experience is a whole other, topic that we can, delve into. But, I still love that experience. I run a film festival, for God's sakes. I have to enjoy it on some level.
Well, who doesn't like going to a giant theater?
Right.
Like old, the big 1 and 2 we used to go to, and getting a big thing of candy or pop and sitting in big giant loud speakers that rattle your chairs and all that stuff. That's an experience. You could go into VR and go on a roller coaster, but it's nothing like actually getting on a roller coaster and being 100 feet up in the air. It's very different being at a theater, especially something like the Music Box. That place is it's amazing when you go. It's like a cathedral.
Yeah.
It's old, and and rustic and amazing, and still got the flat seating, and it has the old stage, almost like a vaudeville stage with the curtains that slide and everything. There's that version. Then there's the big crazy, like, unfortunately we no longer have it, but we had an official IMAX theater at Navy Pier, which is closed now, right?
Right, yes, it
but
is.
That was an official IMAX, like the
Right, not fake
4-story
IMAX.
giant one where we saw Justice League. Like, there's nothing like going to that thing with so much sound. Your hair moves.
Yeah.
Like that is awesome to see, like a Marvel movie like that. Now with the D-box seats and all that, you're not going to get that at home. So
Right.
there is two tiers of it. Do you want to go see that awesome movie, The Big Giant Theater, and experience all that stuff? Or do you want to just sit on your nice couch and enjoy it? Like, there's nothing wrong with it, right?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And there's the whole idea of the community experience as well. And that's the reason, I still go to Elk Grove Theater. Can I say that? Elk Grove Theater?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay. But I'm going to say it. Elk Grove Cinema, where for I think like 6 years now, we've been hosting once a month. We pick the film, us and the Chicago Film Critics Association connection with the classic cinemas. Pick some classic movie, modern or genuine classic from the old days, and play them for people. And then we do a Q&A and a discussion afterwards. And next month we're going to be doing Bound, the first movie by the Wachowskis.
Good movie.
Just coming off of the new Matrix movie and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what our crowd thinks of that movie.
Especially those of them that don't know what Bound is. And then they walk in, like, oh, it's got one of the Tilly sisters in it, or whatever, and then they sit down, and you're like,
yeah, they go, who's the Tilly?
Or was it? Yeah.
Who's the Tilly? But so like doing those kind of things are so much fun. They're really, and especially when you get a chance to open up people to something that they haven't seen before. I think the last one we did was, we did Batman Returns last month, but the month before that we did Almost Famous. And, so myself and another colleague of ours, friend Colin Suter, did the Q&A for Almost Famous. And the only disappointing part about that was that the crowd that did show up for it, like 98% of them had already seen it.
Oh.
So, I mean, they were such, no, it's great. They were such fans of it that they came out on a Wednesday night to see this movie, and then the couple people that hadn't seen it was like, yeah, that was really good.
What was the one we saw? I don't know. I haven't been to one in a while, unfortunately, but I want to say it was like Aliens or something, and it was like, you always say, who hasn't seen it, and it was like half the theater. And we were all like, what? How did they not have it? It was something obvious. I want to say it was like Aliens. And it was like, A, how have you not seen this? But B, wow, you're going to have an experience like this.
I get so excited when I see those hands go up and people have not seen something. Because that's, people who go to see movies over and over and over again in theaters, which we've done many times.
Sure.
But I always get more excited. I go to see a movie once, first time, the experience, great. Okay. If I really like the movie, I want to go see it a second time. I like being with someone who hasn't seen it. If I just go with people who have seen it before, yes, it's a great movie, great friends and everything, but it's always great to see someone new react to something. And that's what I enjoy so much about the Elk Grove things. And thinking about this, the whole idea of the theatrical experience, I'm wondering, because we're getting older and we grew up with that kind of special event where we would go with our parents or we would go with our friends and experience a movie. Matinee, by ourselves or with our family and whatnot. And we have those experiences. And now with streaming and all the new technology that we're dabbling in right here and all the streaming services and whatnot, and every kid could just click on whatever movie they want at a touch of a button.
Those kids
I think is the
Dan Fogelberg.
Yeah, the Dan Fogelbergs of the world are not going to be nostalgic for that experience.
In turn, though, it'll be their experience, which is sitting with mom and dad on the couch, making their own food. They won't know our experience; they'll have their own, which I'm sure they'll remember fondly. But it's fun. It's a different kind of fun that they won't know. and you don't want to be grumpy old man screaming at the clouds, but it's like the weird part is if they're doing the thing at home, the streaming, the weird part is when they do go to a big massive theater and they see like cap lifting Mjolnir at a giant a 2-story IMAX screen, their head's gonna explode because they're used to sitting at a 27-inch to 50-inch, 60, 80-inch television, and it's still good, but nothing like sitting in that theater with 450 people screaming their heads off when Mjolnir goes in the air. There's nothing like that. So they'll have both experiences where we got the movie, movie of the month or movie of the season, maybe Star Wars in the summer on a Friday, and it was full of commercials, and you sat by yourself in the other room, watch it, no one cared. Now you could sit in your bedroom, hit a button, and boom, you're streaming 8 million movies. You can pick anything shy of your IP address blocking you out. There's a million, and now with tech, you can just spoof your IP and get stuff from Russia or whatever anyway, so it doesn't matter. And kids don't want to do that. So, like, they'll have that experience, but in a different way, which leads me into, the thing that has really expanded this year that I appreciate, which you haven't gotten into yet, which I know it's hard, but one of these days we got to get you into it, which is Game Pass for the Xbox. Well, I shouldn't say just Xbox. It's Xbox and PC, depending on which version of Game Pass you get. Not going out as much, not being able to go out in groups for the last 18 months, or, you did, but, it was less often, less people outside, you're doing this and that to try to be safe. It was just less of being able to group up with people. And as we know, when Halo 2 came out, every night before, we had to go to bed to wake up for work in the morning, you, me, couple others, would be playing Halo 2 till 10:30, 11 at night. Mm-hmm. That's just getting online and playing. That now is just the way it is. We were there to see the beginning of it. It's been about 18 years of Xbox Live now, close to 19. And, online gaming is prevalent. Like, everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
The new guy at Xbox, well, I shouldn't say new, about 5-6 years ago he got the job, but he turned that place around when the new machine had come out, the Xbox One, and his name's Phil Spencer. And so when the new machine had come out, the Series X and the Xbox One X, the 4K version, which was previous to that, he or someone at the company that I don't know their name of, unfortunately, had the brilliant move to go, you know what, Netflix seems to be a thing. Maybe we can bring that to games. And people probably were like, you're stupid. And then they're like, no, we're doing it. And they did. And they called it Game Pass. And in essence, as far as I know, it's the first major video game service, whatever, company, to implement basically Netflix for games. And it's just a tab in your Xbox, and now on PC as well. You just click it, and as long as you're a member, which ranges up to like $14.99 a month, so it's pretty similar service, money to service wise, as a Netflix. I think Netflix is like $19 now though, or something. But you get roughly 200 games that are just sitting there. See the little boxes, and if anything from the cover art tickles your fancy, or a buddy's like, hey, you should play this, you just hit the button and it downloads in your machine and you just start playing. And it's just, you remember. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to buy anything. And during the last 18 months of, everybody having to stay home and doing all that stuff, being safe, it's been a godsend. Yeah. There's everything from little puzzle games to music games to what they call independent titles, kind of like independent movies. It's, maybe 3 dudes in a basement and they make a game. They contact Microsoft. They're like, hey, we'll pay for it and we'll put it on the service. And people are playing these games that they never probably would have touched. And with that, Microsoft's like, hey, here's another. How about we just start adding every single one of our games that we publish day and date? Like Halo just came back out. Halo Infinite, which is Halo 6. 20-year anniversary, by the way. 20 years since Halo came out.
I miss old Halo so much.
Well, the good thing is, the new one feels just like the old one. And so we got to get you back on, because when you get Game Pass, the brilliance is anything Microsoft publishes just goes up on there for free.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to go to the store and spend $60. So if you wanted to get, you know, Halo, Gears, Forza Horizon, you know, the racing game, whatever, you're already talking $180, $200. Yeah, you're going to spend that in your subscription through the year, but if you spend, I think I did the math when someone else we know signed up, if you buy two $60 games in a year, that's your subscription. So the second you can justify 2 brand new games on day of release, you've paid for your subscription for the year. Everything else is gratis, basically. So everything Microsoft published, they just bought like 10 companies. So now there's even more games they're dumping on there. Your Bethesda, your Fallout, your Dooms, your Skyrims, your all this stuff. It's just free. Skyrim's a 120-plus hour game if you really want it to be. It's just up there. And they partnered with EA, who you might remember from Madden. We just were talking about that recently, unfortunately, with John Madden passing away. But we used to play Madden all the time. Almost their entire library, including games that are just released, I think it's like 60 days out, then they go in. EA Play, it's called. That's part of Game Pass now. And they have a PC section. So if you have a PC, they only have like, every month there's like maybe 3 or 4 games that you can only play on the PC. But it's universal. So if I'm playing on the Xbox and I want to come down here, I hit a button, and it immediately moves my save in the cloud to the PC, and I just pick up where I left off. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I normally buy, at the very least, 5, 6, 8 games a year. I don't think I have bought a retail boxed disc game in... Far Cry 6 was the last one, and prior to that, maybe 12 months. I don't have to, because I'm a part of Game Pass. Someone we know is also on there, and we'll get on from time to time. And the one that just got added that I'm trying to get you to play is Aliens. I think it's Elite Task Force or something, but basically it's you and 2 other Colonial Marines. It's got all the sounds, all the music, everything from the game. So when you shoot the pulse rifle, it sounds just like it when you have your 5.1 going. You can hear the other guy behind you shooting the pulse rifles off and stuff, you know, like when you play Halo. But it's all aliens. And they crawl out of the vents and stuff, and as you're moving from one area to the next to try to get out. Yeah. I'm telling you, when are you going to sign up? I'm not even a salesman, but you got to sign up.
No. Well, here's the funny thing, and you're going to be very disappointed at best, angry at worst.
Okay.
With me. I am signed up.
Oh, what?
Yeah. But I'm waiting for the new Game Pass package that has the Game Pass plus also 3 more days of the week and 4 more hours each day. Yeah. Because that's what I really need to take advantage of it. Because there was a deal. It was like end of October, maybe November or something like that I was offered, where it's like upgrade from the yearly pass that I had, and so do a monthly Game Pass thing. So I signed up for that. It was only for like $1 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
for your first month, I think, and then you get 13 months.
Right. So I figured at some point I can take advantage of this, but you know, these podcasts don't edit themselves, so it's
understood.
You know, and other things that have you know occurred over the last several months and whatnot. It's just been a lot of stuff. But
I'll be doing this now, so I may have less time as well. The hard part is your entertainment is also your job.
Right.
And that makes that hard for you to like break off that time, because your entertainment, you're also thinking about work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true. So my turn?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, considering you're just getting started doing this, you've been thinking about this for the last 8 months. You've been thinking about this since you went to school, and you know, it's probably a dream you had when you were 8 or something like that. But I got to do something this year that I never thought I'd have the opportunity to have done, and the way it came about is just as funny a story. But I got to do an audio commentary on a Blu-ray this year.
I wish I had it with me. It's right by the television, because
mine's
right
in the other room as well. It hasn't moved from the Blu-ray player since I watched it with somebody back during the summer when it came out. But the Blu-ray from Kino Home Video of career opportunities, which which I go in on the commentary. I go into when I saw the movie at the Woodfield 1 and 2, and and all that kind of stuff, and the whole reason I got to do that comment, I mean, for the career opportunities, for people who are familiar with the movie, it's not high up on the John Hughes canon. The fact it's a movie that he actually disowned, basically, or at least tried to disown with the studio. And
what was the one after that with Owen Wilson? Owen Wilson or the other
Drillbit
Wilson?
Taylor? Are you thinking of?
Which one?
Like later, the Drillbit Taylor.
Yes.
Which was based on like an old script that he had or something.
Is that what that was? So he didn't direct that one.
No. Well, John Hughes has been gone for a long time.
No, but that movie was done before he passed away, right?
Oh no.
Drillbit came out after.
Oh, much yeah.
Really?
Owen Wilson wasn't even though people knew who Owen Wilson was when John Hughes passed. I think. I don't remember what year he passed.
But he didn't like. Oh, I guess he wouldn't have commented if you're saying he passed away.
No,
I didn't.
No.
So someone rejected it, or he didn't like that script, the Drillbit one.
I think it's just one that was just floating around there.
Okay.
I'm hoping we're getting that right. I completely forgot about that, but that kind of sparked something. But no. So career opportunities, it's not, we're not talking Lawrence of Arabia here or something like that. And the whole reason I got to do that commentary is because on my podcast, which I have our good friend Sergio Mims, who's also.
I'm literally texting him. He's asking me. He's like, "Are you guys on?" I don't think he's on the right channel. So while you're talking, so don't think I'm not listening. I'm trying to navigate him to YouTube to try to click in. So
good. Well, tell him we're talking about him. Then he'll get there much quicker.
Maybe.
Yeah. But no, our good friend, excuse me, Sergio Mims, who is on my podcast regularly, and we talk about Blu-rays, we talk about all kinds of things, and I do a radio show with him on WHBK Radio at the University of Chicago once a month as well, and he, we do this biannual thing that we do, a show called Why Is This Not on Blu-ray? And we each pick 10 titles that are still just kind of languishing in a DVD format, or maybe not even that, and just trying to put the word out there, like, hey, let's upgrade these things, or maybe they're not even the best of movies, but they're just things that, why of all the movies, why is this not available on Blu-ray? And I picked career opportunities as one of my titles on that particular show, and even then I said, I know this is not some great movie. There are things about it that I like, and there are things about it that frustrate me, and so I brought it up, and like a week, 2 weeks later, something like that, Sergio was talking to Kino Home Video, and they had just announced that they were doing they were about to announce they were doing career opportunities, and they were asking Sergio if he wanted to do the commentary for it. And he had no, he'll tell you he likes to do stuff from the 50s and 60s and 70s. He likes to do all those older films, the films that he grew up with. And so he's like, I don't want to do this. He goes, but I know someone who might be able to do it. And so he CC'd me in with Kino and just introduced us, and just like, hey, if you're interested in doing a commentary for career opportunities, have at it. And I'm like, okay. And then it was like, what am I going to say about this movie?
Well, you'd never done one before. The whole idea was, we've listened to a million of them, but you've never done one.
Well, I have done one, not an official one, not on a Blu-ray.
Oh, that's right. You did the
Last Starfighter.
That's right.
With Jim Laskowski, who runs the Now Playing Network, said we should do a commentary that we can throw online and for a movie that we both really like. So we did The Last Starfighter, which is it's available online at check the nowplayingnetwork.net. Voices and Visions. I think there's like a bonus episode. So it's one of those things, you click on it, you sync it up with the movie, and then you can hear us talk about The Last Starfighter.
Like the old riff track stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we did that, and that one we just did. We did straight through. We watched the movie and we just talked about it, and it was it's fairly easy to do if you have your notes straight. You know what you want to talk about, and you have someone to bounce off of. it's a little different when you're just there with yourself and a microphone and a time code on your screen and trying to match it up. So, without giving away, exactly how I did everything, it took me, I did it over like the course of like 3 days. And I went through the movie. I watched the movie. I took like 12 pages of notes, is exactly what I wanted, points I wanted to hit and things like that. And then I just started with talk for several minutes at a time, and then I kind of edited it myself to make sure that there were no gaps in it and all those kind of things that we hate about commentaries. Sometimes the director shows up for 15 minutes and then he takes a smoke break or something. He goes away.
Or they do the ones where they have all the commentaries, but they'll just cut like a sentence.
Yeah.
Like of Harrison Ford, and then a sentence of the director, and then a sentence
specific commentaries by these 8 people. And some of those are good, and some of them aren't. But and Career Opportunity is only like 78 minutes long, too. So I had that in my favor. It was kind of good to do a short commentary. But the thing about that particular movie that was challenging is because it's such almost an under the radar. I mean, when it came out, it was shocking even to me. The nostalgia people had for that movie. That movie became, when it came out on Blu-ray, like the #1 seller at the time of Kino's releases. Number 2, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Really?
That's crazy.
Wow.
That was crazy.
We like it. But
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, there are people that are like generally like, I love this movie. I grew up with this movie, and Jennifer Connelly. There's a lot of Jennifer Connelly talk, obviously. But there wasn't a whole lot written about the history of the movie. I had to go like searching for interviews and with Whaley or Connelly, and just to hear what people talked about. I found like articles on John Hughes where there'd be little brief mentions. So I had to fill up as many factoids as I possibly can to make sure I had all that covered. And then interject all of these other thoughts about what works about the movie, what doesn't work about the movie, theories that I have about things that happen in the movie that people probably haven't talked about. And I was completely nervous about it when I released it out. And Sergio was the first one to hear it.
Speaking of Sergio, he texted me yesterday,
okay.
And he's like, "Hey, by the way, your career, Childress's Career Opportunities Blu-ray went back up to like 6th or 7th on the DVD sales charts or something on Amazon."
Yeah.
He was like, "What is going on?" I said, in a good way. He was like, "Wow, this is great."
Yeah. No, and Sergio is like master commentary guy right now, which is also kind of amazing that he has carved out this little piece of his career that he is one of the go-to guys now at Kino.
That's great.
And a couple other labels and whatnot, and all these commentary tracks, and he can sit there and he can just, he is just doing it. There's no editing, there's no anything like that. He just goes through it, usually by himself, and his commentaries are fantastic if you haven't heard any of them. So, but no, Sergio was the one who got me that gig, and I was so happy that people really liked it. I was really worried when the reviews were going to come out, and it was just like, I'm going to get a taste of my own medicine after 20 some years of reviewing other people's stuff. And the people who reviewed the DVD or the Blu-ray now said very, very favorable things about it. So I was incredibly happy, and I'm hoping I'll get to do another one for them. We're just trying to find the right movie. We don't know what that is yet, though.
So they've already talked to you, like, hey, we're getting a bunch of licensing. Can you pick one? Or were you like, hey, I'd like to do another one, and they said, well, tell us what you'd like to do.
No, it hasn't even gotten that. It never even got that far. Like,
okay.
Sergio is sort of like my go-to, like my go-between, so to speak. And he kind of gets a little heads up on what's coming out down the pike, and he'll throw a few at me. And there's obviously titles on there that I know and I really like, but I know like I'm not the guy to do those commentaries. I know which ones I should do.
Well, that's respectable because you could just take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you gave me an assignment, if you gave me an assignment and you said do a commentary on the White Buffalo, I could do it, but I'm not going to have the same sort of passion that maybe someone like Sergio would have for, and I just threw that title out there. I know he does like that movie, but that, that someone else would have for that particular movie. I don't know if anyone would have had how much passion anyone else would have had for career opportunities and some of the positive things I said about that movie, but which is a very flawed movie. It still is. And but no, that was something.
I don't even know what that is.
What's that?
I don't even know what it is. What is it? White Buffalo, you said?
White Buffalo? Yeah, it's a Charles Bronson movie. Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to go back and watch it.
The Hunter movie, There's a White Buffalo. Fantastic special effects.
Did they just paint a buffalo?
It's pretty close.
It's just use a paint sprayer and spray it down?
No, it's a lot of close-ups. I remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. But no, so that was great. So it's just sort of waiting. There was something that was just announced recently, and Sergio and I both saw it, and it was like, this is the one we got to do. And then it turned into like, well, the studio that's actually releasing this doesn't want any extras on it, so we can't do this one. I'm like, damn it.
They want extras because they don't want to.
Which one?
It doesn't cost them, right? Well, they got to pay you, I guess. But like,
yeah,
it doesn't cost them DVD space. So what does it hurt?
Yeah, I can't. It'll come to me in a second when I think about, because I'm just like, yeah, this is one you and I like. Because Sergio and I have been looking for one we can do together.
That would be awesome.
We're still waiting for Dragon Slayer at some point.
That'd be great.
Dragon Slayer is our holy grail right now. That's the movie we've been.
There's some weird Venn diagram somewhere where like this happens, and there's probably it's not that you guys don't like the same movies, but to have you both be super passionate about something, there's some weird little section right in the middle. Dragon Slayer is way up there.
Oh yeah, no, it's like literally at the top of our list of movies that we have talked about that on the podcast several times. Like, I mean, it's still not on Blu-ray, and it's partially I think because there's a Disney Paramount rights issue kind of thing that might be attached to it.
Not published. What's the word?
Like Disney and Paramount like co-released the movie.
Really?
Yeah, Paramount released it on DVD, a really bad looking DVD, and it's never been on any other format before.
Wow.
I think I might be streaming and maybe an HD thing now on like Amazon or something like that, but on a physical
if you can
format,
find it.
Not. Right. Of course. And the other problem is streaming. That's why we love talking about physical media on the podcast, because that's forever unless you break it. But no, Dragon Slayer, as soon as we hear that, we're going straight to the top and going like, let us do this.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. That
would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my number 2 is the proliferation of comic book companies, comic book publishers.
Mm-hmm.
There are, again, we're old people. You remember 257, 9, even 9's pushing it, 11's really pushing it, 32 was, you might as well be in the, the warehouse portion of the television spectrum. There really wasn't. There was like 3 stations, and now obviously everybody nowadays doesn't even know what that means anymore. Comic books were basically Marvel, DC forever. Now you had some British publications. You had a couple other more magazine format stuff like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that Sergio even knows, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But like you had Marvel and you had DC. I've talked to you about this in the past when we talk about comic books. Like in the early 90s, this thing happened where a bunch of artists, mostly artists, decided Marvel wasn't paying them enough, decided they weren't getting treated the right way, they weren't getting their art back. It was all hand-drawn back in the day, like on Bristol board kind of stuff. It's special paper, but Marvel would want to keep that kind of thing. Kirby fought for that back in the day. Neil Adams fought for that. Some other artists did. But in essence, you do the work and you give it to them, and then you never see it again. These guys were getting their art back, but they weren't always getting it. They weren't getting paid a lot. So they leave. They start their own company, Image Comics. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I think I've mentioned it once or twice. But Spawn comes from there. That lovely movie you love so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But Spawn comes from there. Wildcat, Walking Dead is the biggest thing now. That came from Image.
Okay.
So since the 90s, you've had this kind of third wheel, but it's become this bigger publishing company. A lot of independent guys would go there. The idea of Image is Image owns the company. They don't own the characters. Everybody that worked for Marvel and DC was work for hire. So you get a job there, you do the art. They own the art. They own the character. If you create a character like a villain of the week, Marvel now owns it. Yeah. Work for hire. That's it. Well, that was the other thing these guys were upset about. They were doing X-Force 1 and the new X-Men 1 that came out in the early 90s. They were selling 1.5 million copies. They should have been getting tons of money showered on them, and they'd invent these characters, and Marvel would go, okay, cool, we're putting them in a cartoon. See ya. And they had no money or rights to them. So they leave and they do this, but now they're doing all kinds of fun comics over at Image. And again, the big thing is they own the company. They don't own you, your characters, or anything you do. They just help you publish. So they're still making money, but they're not like Marvel and DC. Now, if you go walk a comic book rack, like on a Wednesday, because Wednesday's new comic book day every week, right? Mm-hmm. You go where I personally go. I haven't gotten the clearance yet to start talking, but I will start promoting. I've been going there for 23 years or something. Yeah. And so you walk down that aisle now. There's easily 9 different companies. You got your Marvel. You got your DC. You got Image, which is independent, but still a big company. But you have Boom Studios. You have IDW. You have Dark Horse Comics. They've been around too. I should say there's kind of was always a fourth one. But Dark Horse was always like licensed comics and a couple creator-owned things. But it was like your Aliens, your Predators. I think they did Terminator for a while. I can't remember that. But, you know, they branched out. But so there was those 4. But now you have IDW, Boom. Avatar, I think, is gone now. There's a whole bunch. AWA is one. It's amazing at the breadth and width that you walk through now. Even, you know, Marvel and DC are primarily superhero books. You know, you want your Superman, you want your Cap, Wolverine. There's where you go. DC had Vertigo for a while, which gives you Sandman. Those kind of dark stories that aren't superhero-y. Hellblazer, Sandman. Sandman's coming to Netflix, I think? Amazon? They're finally making it?
Was it HBO Max?
Possibly. I can't remember which one.
Crap.
But, you know, they had kind of an independent imprint. And they were kind of doing that for a while. But then you had Image really open the door to be like, I'm a writer, you're an artist, let's do a proposal, let's send it to Image. If they accept it, they'll help us publish our idea, and then we own it. Robert Kirkman did exactly that, created The Walking Dead, and is now massive. Massive. And Image owns none of it. And now there's all these other studios who've basically figured out, you don't need to make $1 gajillion. I don't need to own The Walking Dead to have people see that we are curating, kind of like your movie thing.
Yeah.
We're curating these artists and writers. We're accepting what we like, and we're going to help them publish it. And, you know, again, most people don't go with me to the comic shop, but it's just amazing to see the different kinds of stories. I'm reading one now. I think it's AWA. I'm going to be more prepared in the future for this. I'm going to have visual stuff to show you. But I think AWA publishes it. It's called Out. It takes place at like a concentration camp. It's obviously not a superhero book, but it's incredibly emotional and involved. But there's also like zombie stuff going on, or vampires. You know, there's way more books with female leads in them. Way more books with you know, not your superhero drawn stuff. You know, a comic book. If I were to show you a page, you know what I'm talking about. This is more sort of art. And it's just nice to see after, at this point now, I've been collecting for 28 years. And it appears that with The Walking Dead and the success of these companies realizing it doesn't just have to be superheroes, which I love. But Sandman broke my mind back in the day, and it made me realize that it doesn't just have to be cool stories involving guys in superhero costumes. It can be about the god of dreams talking to a serial killer who can't sleep, or this kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be the Marvel movies we love now that you graciously take me to. It doesn't have to be that, although that's awesome. And I'm picking up where I've gone a little bit more digital with my comics just because of space. You've seen we recently installed this because of I was going to do this, but
it looks good.
Thank you.
It looks good. Yeah.
Hopefully the basement will be finished. It'll look much nicer, but that's my next big project. I have about 80 boxes, and it's taking up a whole portion of the basement still, and I have to keep them off the ground a foot, and I got a tarp over them. So I've gone a little more digital. Well, I've been picking up a little bit more of these newer, stranger independent titles, and I'm just happy to see it, that this is something that could just die any day, really. It's not like a movie. It's like a book. Shy of Harry Potter and some romance novels that sell. Name the last person you or I heard of when you had a chat with them and they were like, "Oh, I went to the bookstore. I had to go get a new book."
Right.
Or a vinyl record. There's people that collect it. But it's good to kind of go back and get some of these independent books that it's not just named people you would know. And it's cool to see, like I said, the breadth and the width of it. All different kinds of stuff. I encourage anybody who's watching or listening to go you can just search, use your phone, and when you go to the map thing, just type in comic books. It'll pop up a comic book store near you. Just go in and look. There may be a cover of something that you wouldn't expect, and it's $2. Go in, grab it, read it, see what you like.
I miss those days. I really genuinely miss the golden era of video stores.
Yeah.
Because there really is something. There really, that was its own thing too. Is just going into a store. Sometimes you know exactly what you're going for. Sometimes you didn't. So you just had to look around, see what was available, and maybe you take a chance on something, or watch something again for the umpteenth time. But just taking that trip, going into the store, just browsing, just like looking at the boxes, looking at all these things that are there, all these options that are available to you. And now, we just click on a button, we go just stream away and click, and it's all there. It's kind of it's the same, but it's not.
It's window shopping without the window.
Yes.
It's not nearly as fun.
Right.
I don't mean to get off track, but I just want to say it because I just said it and I don't want to forget. You made a comment. If you go into the new, it's either CVS's or Walgreens, you want to go get a can of pop, and you go to the door, and it's a glass door, and you open the door, and you can see what's in there because it's glass. Right? You want to select it. Have you been to a CVS or a Walgreens lately? Like in the last 6 months?
Oh, Walgreens, I'm like, they're Walgreens like every week.
Okay. Depends on which one you're at. It might be CVS too. Maybe I'm confusing the two. They now have LED screens in the freezer doors with the items that are sold directly behind the door. It seems redundant, but then you realize why. Because every other door on a random interval will show an ad.
Yeah.
It's very much turning into Idiocracy with the ads being on everything.
Yes.
It's literally the whole wall of freezer doors have the ads, but then right behind it is that.
Right.
But even then, remember, you'd go to 7-Eleven and you go, oh, what do I want? Like, there's something to that. And they have comic books digitally. Like Marvel has a digital service
sure.
I also subscribe to because it's a little bit easier to read and not carry stuff around. But there's nothing like going every week or every other week, picking up your books out of every place. If you go, you say, look, I only like 2 titles, and I want to make sure they're here. They'll have a thing called a pull box. You just give them your name, tell them which ones you want, and when the books come, A, it helps them because they know how much to order. But B, they'll just put it to the side in a little box. And when you show up, they know you, like, cheers. Hey, it's Erik or whatever. You walk in, and they hand you your books. and you pay for them and you walk out, and you have something to read on your lunch or whatever, and they're only a couple dollars. And you should give it a chance. I'm going to be talking, obviously, a lot about comic books and comic-related stuff on this channel, but there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's tons of companies now. That's what the gist of it, though, is again, I'll be more prepared, but tons of stuff. Tons of every kind of subject matter. There's literally something called Soul Plumber. I picked up the first 2 issues because I was told it was really good, but I think the first issue is literally a plumber on the cover. But clearly with the word soul in front of it, something else is going on. So I'm not quite sure
how in, like, God or, like, your feet?
No, Soul, S-O-U-L.
Okay.
Yes. And so clearly something else is going on. That's a DC book, but still, it's not a superhero book that I'm aware of. But I picked up the first 2 issues just because people were like, you got to read this. And I was like, all right, I'll take a chance. So we'll see, but please, go to your local place and pick up 1 or 2 books. You'll love it. Take a kid.
Yeah.
Tons of fun kid stuff. IDW makes kids books.
Yeah.
So.
So the last thing on my 3 things list, we talked about virtual experience, talked about a Blu-ray that I got to do. But there was a movie that came out late this year that I did get to see at a press screening in the theater that it felt like a full circle kind of moment in many ways when I got to experience it, and this is going to be very on brand for me, so I apologize for being a little cliche about myself, people who know me at this point, but getting to see Steven Spielberg's West Side Story this year, after having to not just wait for it for an entire year because of the delay with the pandemic and everything, that was one thing enough. But in many respects, waiting for Spielberg to do a musical for so long, since 1941.
I was just gonna say the closest thing he ever came was 1941.
1941 and the opening of Temple of Doom.
Oh yeah, I just watched that. You're right. Yeah.
So and you look at those two. You look at the Jitterbug sequence in 1941. The entire CSO
makes total
sequence
sense.
is amazing, and the opening of Temple of Doom, which only seems in there because it almost seems like Spielberg's just like, someday I'd really like to do a musical. Let me just throw something in here at the beginning of the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark and just throw people off here for a moment.
And a fight scene, which is kind of choreographed, in with dancing, which is choreographed, to the music.
Yes.
Yeah.
It all just completely makes sense. And so, like, when Spielberg announced that he's finally going to do one, he's finally going to do a musical, and he's going to do West Side Story. And I was just kind of like, okay. One of the musicals that made me not like musicals as a kid was West Side Story. Because when you're a kid, you see Indiana Jones or Star Wars or Rocky, whatever. When you see people fight, you see people fight. You don't see people dance fight.
No, not unless they're into capoeira. And I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
Right. So I just remember seeing it, and I was just like, no, not rolling with this.
Right.
But it was later on when I started to see musicals that sort of focused on dance, like Singing in the Rain and Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and those types of things, that I began to develop a greater appreciation for musicals over the time. So I'm just like, I was disappointed. I'm like, I wish he would do something original. I wish it would have been a true new Spielberg creation, but that's so hard to do these days. I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda, since Hamilton, has seemingly been doing like 82 musicals a year now at this point. And I think even fans of his are going like, it's wearing a little thin now. Maybe take a break.
What was the movie and again, we don't want to talk, we're not going to talk about the heat. Positive podcast.
Right.
We're not going to talk about the heat he received, whether justified or not. But what was the other movie? Is that also a musical?
Which was the Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yeah, it was a movie though.
Tick Tick Boom? You talking about?
No. The one in between.
In the Heights?
Is that what it was?
That's
you got some heat on the casting.
The casting, yeah.
Right. Okay. Is that a musical? I didn't see it.
Yes, it's a musical.
Oh, okay. So literally, Tick Tick Boom isn't a musical, is it?
Yes, it is.
A musical?
It's
I
a
know it had
musical.
music in it.
It's a musical about the creator of Rent.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you surprised me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's all I'm going to say about it because we're keeping it positive.
Yeah.
But
We're gonna try.
anyway, but again, so I was hoping he was going to do something original, but so I'm like, okay, he's going to do West Side Story. I mean, at the very least, Spielberg's doing a musical, so whatever feelings I might have about that original movie or the storyline or anything like that, which is basically Romeo and Juliet with gangs in a 60s setting and whatnot, that it's still going to have like. I don't want to turn this into a whole diatribe about Spielberg, but people like younger generations now, it's kind of just like, oh, they kind of dismiss him a little bit, which is really stupid.
Do they? You mean critics of your generation?
No, not
or
so much. Well, not so
just
much
people.
Critics, people. Yeah.
Well, do you really think they even know who he is?
Well, that's you're right.
That's probably the problem.
Right.
They have no clue who he is.
It's a huge problem. But what I was saying is that, like, you go back and watch any of his movies, whether it's the best thing he's done or you think even the weakest thing he's done, and you just watch the way he puts together shots and moves the camera and lets people talk and whatnot. It's a completely distinctive, like, he is a filmmaker, for better or worse. Whatever you think about the ultimate product, he's a craftsman. So I knew going into this that was going to be immaculate. What I wasn't expecting was him and Tony Kushner to completely reinvent it in many ways and alternate songs and shift things around so songs had different meanings, and the context of it, which was prevalent in 1961, is now even more prevalent today with certain things, and to see, and then for him to watch him craft musical numbers in those styles that we talked about, and getting to experience it, I was in awe watching it. In many ways that haven't been in awe in watching a musical in some time, because it is just so immaculately crafted, and it meant something more. And the fact, again, that I've seemingly been waiting for 40 some years for this to happen, and then to put it on pause for a year, and to get to see it at the end of this crappy year, for the most part, was just what the doctor ordered.
That's awesome.
Literally. Yeah. So it was just, and it's a shame that people, other than basically one movie right now, which is nothing against that movie, but
I think I know what you're talking about. We both liked it.
Well, yeah.
You're talking Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
yeah.
No Way Home.
Well, it smushed everything. Everything.
Yeah.
As much as I like it, why bother putting out a movie in the first 2 weeks Spider-Man's out? You're gonna get smushed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think even they thought it was going to do this in the middle of what's going on.
True.
Right
I'll
now.
give you that.
So there's that. But adults are just not going to see movies. What happened again? I'm not trying to make this negative, but what happened over the last 18 months basically is people, especially older people, learned how to wait. It didn't become, events did not have the same urgency anymore, unless you're Spider-Man, and that all those fans gotta go out and consume, and obey. But
the Marvel gods,
right? But people are just like, oh, West Side Story, I really want to see that, but I'll wait till it hits streaming in 45 days.
I wonder what your take is on this. How many people do you think saw the trailer on TV? Which, again, I think A, I don't have cable anymore, but B, even online ads and things like that. I think I only saw it twice, ever.
Yeah.
How many people assumed they could just stream it on that day?
That's a question pretty much for any movie.
True, but I mean, again, a movie like this, you would assume they'd be like, hey, West Side Spielberg, boom, boom, boom. Like, how many people just assumed, oh, cool, I can watch it tomorrow?
Right.
No, unless you.
No, and that's unfortunate, and it's one of those. You see these ads sometimes, and now they really have to put in big giant letters on the screen. Only in theaters. Only in theaters, people. It's not going to be on Disney Plus. It's not. And the larger the font and the louder they say it, the more arrogant it seems. Just like, yeah, come, you got to get out of the house. people, if you want to see our movie, you got to go to your local theater. You're not going to be able to see this on Disney Plus, which they could because now Disney owns Fox and Fox is West Side Story, and it's easily their number one awards contender at this point. And they're probably kicking themselves a little bit that they committed to a 45-day window as opposed to maybe a 30-day window with the theaters, because they would have had the thing. Well, it would still be about another week before it would have been available at home.
What article was I reading? They were just talking about another movie that was just released, and they're like, oh, by the way, you're going to be seeing that on streaming way sooner than you thought. And it was a thing like, people assumed it's, well, they're going back to, you're going to have to wait 4 months for it to come out. And I think they were alluding to the fact that it was like a 30-day window. Like, and Matrix came out day and date, right?
Well, that was the last of the HBO Max deal.
So
right, and I'm definitely not going to talk about that because we're keeping things positive.
I still haven't watched it. I can't bring myself. Ever since you said what you said, you only said a tiny bit. I'm like, I'm an apologist for 2 and 3.
I'm an apologist for 2.
I like 3. I don't think it's great, but I like it.
3's not horrible.
But you talking about 4 the way you do, and everyone else, I'm like, I don't know if I should.
I don't know where we're keeping things positive.
Trying our best.
There's an industry thing we could talk about with the Matrix that we're not going to talk about, but it's disappointing that a big event movie that Spielberg makes, and like in any other year, if COVID never happened, this movie's making $150 million, because musicals have been doing incredibly well this time of year over the holidays.
Musicals,
music, yes.
Really?
Yeah,
what was last year?
Well, not last year. Nothing
okay.
Was last year.
19.
No, not because that was the year of Cats. So not that year.
Yeah, that didn't do well.
But the year before that, you had the Mary Poppins Returns.
And that did well?
Did very well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it might not have cleared the budget, but it made money. It like grossed money. The year before that, Greatest Showman is one of like the success stories of the last few years. Greatest Showman, La La Land, obviously, some years ago. Les Miserables did incredibly well this time of year. So musicals have been doing very well. Into the Woods, which is not a very good movie, but did like $120 some million. So the market is there. The adults were going to see these movies, and with people who know what West Side Story is, so it's unfortunate. But it's gonna be, when people discover the movie on streaming, they're gonna be like, that's a movie I wish I could have seen in the theater.
Yeah, especially around this house. Don't need to explain why. It's going to be interesting to watch that, especially the newer version. Mm-hmm. We have not watched it yet.
There will literally be no controversy. I promise you that.
Well, I don't think there would be a controversy. I just mean like, well, I hope not. That's it. Leave. But I really think it'll be interesting because we haven't watched the original together.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting just to see the new one, in general. Yes. And it's Spielberg, so why wouldn't you watch it?
Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And Rita Moreno. Come on, Rita Moreno.
Hot, spicy number.
Right. Well, that's cool. I'm trying not to be controversial with this, so I'm going to deal with this in the most positive way I possibly can.
All right.
Which is my thing that unfortunately, I've come to appreciate, especially in times like this, the last 18 months, is delivery services.
Oh, yeah.
It's a touchy subject, so I'm going to try to get around it in the most positive way possible.
Yeah.
In the sense that I think they should be treated much better. I will pay an extra $2 or $3 to make sure that the delivery person that delivers my stuff is A, safe, B, getting paid properly, C, hopefully in a union or something somewhere, being treated properly. Okay, so let's start off on that positive foot, right?
Sure.
With that, it is crazy how quickly, and they know they could, especially in the last 18 months, how quickly I've become accustomed to, can I hit a button and have someone drop this stuff off on my porch? Again, with the caveat that, and I'm not any better than anybody else, but I hope that they're being treated properly. I appreciate what they're doing, and I'm not dismissive of it. But man, we get purchases and food. Although I still go grocery shopping and doing stuff like that. Like I'll go to the store. I don't mind doing that. You got to go get something. I do it, and I do it often enough. But that last minute, it's 11 o'clock at night. Could I change my clothes and run to Jewel? Or can I hit a button on an app? And on the rounds in the morning, just like the paper guy delivers the paper. So again, let's treat these service people properly. I wake up, and at 9, there's a package of that thing sitting on my porch. And I didn't have to change my clothes at 11 o'clock at night. What is the, it's touchy. I appreciate it, but I know how unfair it can be. So let's all hope and fight for people to be treated better, so that they have a good living, and their living happens to be helping other people and serve those people. My career, is a service type industry in a sense. Mm-hmm. Yours is a little bit different than that, but you deal with people dealing with the service industry.
Yeah.
They're at the places you go. Oh
yeah.
But man, is it convenient. And it's like a drug. Once you start, I was like, hey, we need such and such, and it was late at night. And I was like, you know what? It'll be here tomorrow. I can't.
So you don't have any, you carry, no guilt that you're making someone else do it?
I don't, in the sense that the worker doing it, if they are doing it to make a living, just like a taxi driver, or it's really no different other than the mechanics of doing it. A bartender, a person at Subway making your sandwich, I could do that at home, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It's the same, but they have a business that they do it at, as opposed to a delivery person, much like a FedEx guy or a UPS guy. They make pretty decent livings. Most of those guys, as far as I know, are in unions and treated well and get pay raises, and they get treated the way they're supposed to. What I'm not a fan of, unfortunately, is the gigification of what used to be a service industry job that was treated well, proper career, meaning they were paid right, insurance, doing the right thing. Some of the people making these deliveries are obviously treated horribly by certain companies. And this is the part I want to try to stay positive. It doesn't mean I don't want to ignore the horrible stuff that's happening. But there are places that do treat people properly. And I would like to be a customer of those places.
Sure.
And again, and now there have been times I've ordered stuff from not your typical online store that may not treat their delivery people properly. But other more mainstream stores that deliver stuff via UPS, FedEx, whatever, those guys I know are paid properly and are compensated fairly and treated well. They're delivering those things next day, sometimes same day, and it's FedEx, UPS. I know those guys are being treated properly, but the convenience of it has become too good. I don't like how much I like it. I want. I still go out and do what I got to do, but man, that 10 o'clock, I'm missing something, boop, and then it's sitting there at 9 in the morning or 11.
Yeah.
Man, is that convenient. Some of this equipment I hooked up was that. Oh my God, I forgot I needed that wire. Oh my God, boop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're all we all want to be supportive of all of these things, and I hope that when people do use them, I use the food delivery stuff sparingly. Mostly just dinner stuff. I still do grocery shopping myself.
You mean like the meal prepared kits?
No, not even like HelloFresh or anything like that. type places, which coupons are your friend.
Sure.
And every once in a while they give you a coupon. I'm like, well, let's try that. And because I've heard some bad things about the restaurants themselves getting screwed out of some of the profits when you do order from some of these places. So now if I do that, I try to do that from like chains. I don't feel as bad, doing it like that. But I do that sparingly. But it's funny hearing you talk about it the way you are, and again looking at you with the microphone and talking to the computer and everything. I'm going to quote Frank Costanza here for a moment. I saw a provocative movie the other night called The Net, starring that girl from The Bus, and it's 1995. The Net with Sandra Bullock came out, and she was the introvert, and she's got her own thing and the computers and whatnot, and she's ordering stuff up and ordering her food and whatnot. It's all coming to her, and then everyone just trying to kill her. So that's going to happen to you next.
Don't say that. That's happened. There are people in the houses that get shot at and stuff. This is not going to happen here.
No, we don't know. This isn't Unfriended 2.
No, we're friendly.
That's right. No, of course.
We want people to be treated nice.
You don't have any like microfiche or anything that could...
No, I have no secret plans in this house or anything.
Yeah. Right.
No.
So you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny you think about those. I mean, because now we're excuse me, we're into 2022, and all I see now is everyone's starting to go through all the movies that take place in 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen some of these now. Soylent Green is one of them.
In 2022, the actual year.
In 2022.
Wow, okay.
And I just saw the movie Zardoz with Sean Connery takes place on January 1st.
That outfit is bad. That outfit is amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
You put that up on still here. To amaze everybody. And there's some Mark Hamill movie.
The Guyver or whatever, the superhero.
No, not the Guyver.
No.
It was like I forgot.
Not Corvette Summer.
It's not Corvette Summer. That took place in the past. But it was some alien hunter or something.
Okay.
Like, maybe that's the Billy D. Williams movie with Tracy Scroggins.
Weren't they in all those movies?
Tracy Scroggins was in a lot of fine movies at the time that we worked at the video store.
I assure you.
Yes. Walkers too. Yeah, but no, it's funny. People like, because we're past the Blade Runner year and all that stuff and whatnot. So it's funny to see all these. We're gonna be going through that period now where it's just like, see, all these things are true or not true or whatnot.
Back to the Future.
Well, Back to the Future 2, yeah. I mean, you still watch that and you're just like, it's amazing how close they are and stuff. And then the things that they weren't close on, they were clearly just jokes, like no lawyers and stuff like that. But
flying cars.
Yeah, I mean, the flying cars, obviously are not there yet, but they're close. They're very close on the Cubs. They were very close.
That's
very
true.
close on the Cubs. Yeah, so I mean, it's amusing that we're now living in those periods. And then, I mean, who knows? 2022 could be that year that we do start eating people. It's very possible that that's where we're headed. So.
Well, they're already like growing meat cells in petri dishes.
Yes.
Like protein, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite beef. It's not quite pork, but it's in a.
Yeah.
It tastes kind of like it, but it's not a human or an animal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's nana.
Yeah. Well, I think. Is there anything maybe we look forward to in the coming year? Mine's gonna be pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know how often I'm gonna do this. This tonight was basically an experiment just to see if it would even work. Clearly, it looks like it has. I appreciate you sitting with me testing all this garbage for a few days. It's kind of weirdly convenient, although I didn't plan it that way, that my first stream is going to be on New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a weird anniversary now.
Yeah.
If I keep this up, I think I'm going to try as best I can. And we'll see what I can do with it. So I'm just curious to see what I can do with it. I watched a guy the other day. He's a woodworker, and he just showed like 40 different ways to make a joint. Not a joint.
Right.
A joint. And it was like with glue, without glue, this kind of tongue, that kind of tongue, this thing, and I watch it because I might want to start doing some geeky stuff with coffee tables, and I was like, that's kind of neat, and that's all he does, and people appreciate it. The weird part about me doing this is that, again, my career is not something that is creative, and so for almost 30 years, I haven't really done anything creative.
Yeah.
And although this isn't super creative, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with it, but we'll see. And the sad part is I'm late to the game. There's a podcast I listen to about video games. I'll give him a shout out. It's called Cheap Ass Gamer, and he's been doing it for like 11 years.
Yeah.
It's just it's a podcast, but now they're broadcasting live when they do it, like I'm going to do now, and then they pull the audio and do it. Well, when we 83, 80, when we were watching those movies when we were 10, 12, 13 years old, imagine walking up to anybody and being like, oh, yeah, other than Star Wars, if you were a geek about comic books or other movies that weren't popular movies or this kind of thing, you were looked at like a pariah. If you played D&D, people were trying to say you worship Satan.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that was going on. If you liked rap music, all you wanted to do was hurt people. If you did the,
Right.
all that backmasking on Beatles albums, Elvis swinging his hips. But anyway, if you like that kind of stuff,
Dan
like
Fogelberg.
you and your Dan Fogelberg, it wasn't. People were like, that person's a weirdo. Like it's so amazing to me now that you and I, sitting in that video store at night, closing up and picking movies and putting things in cases and recommending movies to people when they'd come in and all that stuff, has now become the internet. And in a weird way, I feel like I'm late, but I'm gonna just kind of do some stuff and see what sticks. But it's nice to know that there's a lot of people who enjoy. I don't want to be that gatekeeper guy like, I like that band 2 years ago, and now you like them, so they suck, and I don't like them anymore. I'm happy people love the Marvel movies. I'm happy if I bring out a HeroClix set, you may not like HeroClix, but if I start showing you all the cool characters, you'll be like, I know that guy, he was in that movie, I know that guy. Everybody knows this stuff now. Games, computers, video games, board games. There's a whole reawakening of people who love board games now. So I'm excited, scared, but excited.
You shouldn't be scared. And I'll try and talk you through.
Well, not like in the fetal
It's
position
not,
or
you know.
anything. I'm not like
Hey,
crying in a corner.
Right, no, of course not. But just remember, there's no such thing as late until you're dead.
Well, that's
As long
why
as-
I'm doing this. Is because
right,
I
and
didn't
as long
want to
as-
not do it.
Right. I just saw a story of not even a story. It was a tweet. It was literally just a tweet that I saw of one director, Barry Jenkins, actually an Oscar-winning director, who was talking about there's this. I think there's a show on HBO Max now. I think it's called Station 11. I think it's called. Very very well acclaimed. I haven't seen it yet. But I guess the director of one or many or multiple of the episodes, it's a limited series thing, I think, is a woman named Helen Shaver, who was an actress, and you've seen her in things over the years. She was in The Color of Money. She was in a movie, one of the very early sort of like 80s lesbian love story films called Desert Hearts, and The Believers, that Satan worshiping thing with Martin Sheen. Did you ever see
I want
that?
to say I remember the trailer for that.
Yeah,
I think.
she's in that. So she's. I mean, if you saw her, you'd probably go like, I've seen her before, but she like just started directing, or something like that. She's like 70 now, and apparently and is killing it. Apparently on the show. So it's just like it's that kind of thing. It's just like it's never too late to start something, and yeah, I mean the only thing you just have to keep motivating yourself to. I mean, because you can't go chasing, subscribers or listeners. I mean, if you do that, you're gonna give up in 3 weeks.
It's a losing game.
It's an absolute losing game. I mean, I've got a whole bunch. I'm almost at 300 podcasts, and they're podcasts that my entire 5 years people can get in one episode. because now celebrities are doing podcasts and whatnot. How do you compete with someone who's already a well-known brand? Okay, so you just have to just do it, and this year 2022, not obviously that I had not pushed back in any way against the podcast. I've had ups and downs and fits and starts with it, and it's always been kind of a side hustle in a way to sort of all the other things that I'm doing, and here's it all pieced together, and just here's one more thing that I can put out into the world. But this is the year that I think that I am more fully embracing the entire spectrum of it, not just my show, doing stuff with you, doing other podcasts that I'm invited onto. There's Nick DiGilio, who I did radio with for 20 years on WGN Radio, that ended like many things during the pandemic. He is coming back in full force with a podcast this month, and myself and Steve Procopi, who we did stuff on his show. He's part of the film festival. We know each other obviously very, very well. We're going to be doing movie reviews on his podcast as well. And I haven't even told you this yet, but there's very likely possibility I'm going to be starting a second podcast that's going to be coming up. I'm not going to
one of a more dedicated sort of
very specific subject matter, and it's going to be a little more like I don't know how often we're going to do it, but it's going to be like a one movie discussion kind of thing.
Hyper focus.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be its own thing, and so that's going to something that we're piecing together now, and hopefully might get launched as early as this month. And but I got Sundance coming up, so there's a whole slew of things that are going to be on my plate. But I think that I have to embrace this entire thing, because this is the thing that is just being put out there in the world regularly, and people have embraced it in some respect. So again, can't chase a million listeners. It's just don't worry about it. Worry about the listeners you have. Cultivate, bring new people into the fold. They'll like it, they'll go away. There's 8 jillion podcasts released every day. We're 2 of them.
Starting this, I knew I was walking into, Wembley Stadium full. There's so much noise finding my voice or our voice or whatever. Yeah. I know I'm not doing it for that. I think I needed an outlet, and I think I needed something to focus on throughout the year, which I did, which has culminated in this. Now with the new year, it's going to be interesting, to see if, there's a lot of play. I couldn't go play HeroClix. 18 months ago, I'm not going to go out and sit in a room with 20 other people breathing on each other playing HeroClix. Maybe being able to do it on here and having people join in, and I got a second camera set up, so I'm going to try to do that kind of thing. So we'll see. Just the unboxings of them. Yeah. A lot of stuff. So we'll see. And again, if we get that board game thing up and running, even if it's not HeroClix, I just got a new Kickstarter Batman, the animated series game. It's got like 180 miniatures and tons of maps and stuff, and it's way more complicated. I know you don't like it when we tried to play that card game. You were like, this is way too much setup. This game is way more setup than that, and there's miniatures involved and other stuff. It's way more involved. But there are other games that are not that complicated. But it'll be fun, especially for someone who doesn't like them, to get your interpretation of them, and just to see how crazy this board game stuff has gotten on Kickstarter, and comic books. Come on, they'll be with me forever. So I'll continue to talk about them, and then obviously you see back here, huge gamer. So even after this, I'm going to shut this off, take a little break. I'm going to try to get on with an ex-coworker, maybe play some Halo. If there's the first game I'm going to stream, it's going to be Halo. And so the new Halo came out, and so if you want, throw me on in the background and watch me shoot some people in the face virtually.
Right. The only way that's acceptable to do so.
Right. But we'll see. So I'm happy for you. You're gonna have another podcast. It'll be interesting. I'm just catching up. I think I'm like 3 down.
That's pretty good.
So
I appreciate it.
well, yeah, I tend to go in fits and starts, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll listen to 3 or 4 at a time, then I'll kind of go over, listen to 3 or 4. So I'll be catching up soon. So again, I can't thank you enough. Known each other forever, and thank you for being on here, the first person. And if you continue to do this with me, maybe we'll have a little third box down here somewhere. Maybe get Sergio on and other people who are comfortable doing this kind of stuff, and
That would definitely
talk
be fun.
about all matters of silliness. How about that?
Yeah, you got a whole range of colleagues that I'm associated with that you can be put in touch with that I'm sure would love to be a part of this.
You know, one thing neither of us do or watch, and I don't know if anybody that you've introduced me to watches a lot of it, but
Real
some of these.
Housewives?
Which one?
Real Housewives?
No, although I've seen that.
How dare you? How dare you?
I have seen
You're
it.
part of the problem. You're part of the problem.
If you don't, you're part of the problem.
Right.
Is anime? I know nothing. You think a super geeky person like me, I'd be all over it.
Mhm.
I know nothing other than G-Force, Akira, and like
Ghost in the
Transformers, which is not really that. But
Mhm.
G-Force stuff. Oh, Speed Racer is the other one. That was before it was called anime. It was just called cartoons. And there'll be people on here that I used to work with that are super into it. Like, that's all they watch. So it'll be very interesting to hear about some of that stuff, because I know nothing. They talk to me and it sounds like another language. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, hey, you know, I don't either, honestly. You know, I've seen some of the movies, and a couple
Like, you've seen like the Mononoke and stuff like that.
Well, no, that's not anime. That's not really anime in the same respect.
It's
No,
popular anime.
Studio
Ghibli.
Yeah, it's not. I don't call that. I call that animation. You know, it is. It's. We don't have to pigeonhole it to
Sure.
the Akira, you know, Dragon Ball Z area.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It gets.
Yeah.
Now you're jumping.
I'm
That
aware
was
of
a
them.
regular
I know
step. I'm
them.
talking like 4.
Yes. Yes. Midnight Occult Fighter Pilots or something like that. I got like half of that right, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and we'll do this again hopefully in 2 weeks. Give me time to figure all this podcast stuff out and get one up there.
Yeah.
And we'll
Absolutely.
see how this goes.
I'll be right here. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
man. Really do
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
You got it.
Bye.